Hey everyone, before we really get started on this video, I wanted to mention something right off the top here. And that is, if you type in John Deere 455 fan belt, this is most likely the part that you're going to get. It is a M800347. It is a cogged belt. I tried to cross-check and everything. I didn't really see anything else that you could get. I figured it's fairly universal. They made the 455 for a few years. They had the same setup, but this would work. It does not. The belt that you need, or the belt that at least worked in my application here, is an M41985 from John Deere. It is a true V belt. It's not a cogged belt, but it was the correct length. They're both about the same length, but the difference in the two, and I'll explain later in the video, is the thickness of the inside of the belt. So this wasn't able to go over the pulleys quite as far, which made the belt short, if you know what I'm talking about. The V on this one is better, and the belt fit perfectly. So in order to save y'all some headache, and save the headache that I had to deal with going to the John Deere place and get a second belt for this, as opposed to just ordering the correct one online, I wanted to save y'all a little bit of hassle when it comes to that. Hope y'all enjoy this 455 video. I will put a link to a belt for this part number specifically down below for you to purchase if you need to replace this on your John Deere. Let's get started on it. Hope y'all enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to Ellis Mowers. I appreciate y'all watching the channel as always. Behind me we've got basically what is the granddaddy of all lawn tractors. This is a John Deere 455 with the 3-cylinder diesel in it. As an aside, my dad had one of these, and when I was younger, it had significantly more hours on it than this. I think it had close to 2,000 hours, I want to say, or it had at least 1,000, I know that. That thing kept clicking along, and I got to cut with it for about 10 years at my parents', so that was kind of cool. Power steering and all that good stuff. Such an easy mower to operate. But this one's not that one. This is a different one that a customer has brought in. It's got a what I originally was told to be, it would just stop cutting, like it may be something wrong with the blade switch. But what it is actually is the fan belts come off of it. So on these mowers, when the fan belt comes off, or not when the fan belt comes off essentially, but what it will cause is the temperature to get too hot. Now when the temperature gets too hot, there's a fail-safe on these that will turn off the blades, and you have a little light on the dash. It's the middle light that will come on to tell you that your temperature is getting too hot, and the blades shut off. So I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. I'll show you inside under the hood here of this 455. Quick walk around before we get into doing the belt. I have been told that once you look underneath the mower, you'll see everything. You'll see that it all makes sense from the forums that I've read. So let's get started. If you have any questions about this video, feel free to reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com, or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. This is the first one I've worked on, so bear with me. We're going to learn together here, guys, all right? So let me give you a walk around of this 455. We'll get the belt changed, and we also need to figure out where a hydraulic leak is coming from. So while we're under there, we'll see if we can find that as well. Let's go ahead and get started. And before we get started, I do want to mention that they took this to the John Deere dealer at the beginning of the season and spent, wait for this, $1,700 servicing this mower. $1,700. Should be able to do this fan belt for a couple hundred, I think. We'll see. Under the hood, here's your 3-cylinder liquid cooled diesel. And there's your exhaust. We're not going to touch that, obviously. There's your radiator lines. And so here's what we got going on. We've got a tight fit is what we've got and get the flashlight. We'll go on the other side. All the coolant levels and stuff are good. I would think so because it just got serviced. But you can see the belt has shredded right here on the pulley and has come off somewhere. I don't know if it, hopefully no bearings locked up in anything. Whoops. And that's just tight. That's kind of tight because of the way that it is. What have we got? We've got the crank pulley down there. We've got the alternator over here. That one's spinning freely. The fan seems to be spinning freely. So I think it just got loose and jumped, y'all. I hope so, because I don't want to be replacing I don't want to be replacing bearings or anything of that nature. Like I said, the guy said on the forums, said that once we get underneath the mower, it's going to make sense. So that's what we're going to do. Don't know how to exactly take this deck off. We will learn together. I think we've got some mounts on the side here, like this one. I need to lower the deck, but we'll get there. And got a mount on this side. Obviously, we've got to take a drive shaft off because this is a shaft-driven PTO. So there's the drive shaft in the back there. And shouldn't have to take the belt off or anything of that nature to get it off, just the drive shaft. So let's see what we need to do. Looks like those two mounts right there, we could pull we might have to take the shaft off first and then push this forward to get this mount off. And I mean, that should be it. Power steering and the hydraulics are still working, so it's not anything related to that. Gotta have the mower running. This thing right here is a beast of a mower. You can run it for a hot second. Not with the brake on. There we go. We gotta get this lower though. Okay. I'm gonna run for about 4 or 5 minutes before it starts getting too hot. Let me get the mounts off, get the shaft off, drag this deck out of here, and look under the mower, see if we can figure out what we need to do with this thing. John Deere makes it easy, I make it hard. Here's what you gotta do. Exactly what I mentioned with these two side mounts, and then you just push that forward and get that front mount off. Whenever you do that, whenever you raise that front mount off, what I did is I took a jack to this area, right here on the frame, right there for the front, I guess you'd call it the front axle or torsion beam or whatever you want to call it, and lifted it up. I've got the mower on jack stands now. That allows me a little bit more room. And then when you get to the drive shaft, what I did is I went from the back of the mower because there was enough room. There's a collar on that drive shaft right there. You pull toward the front of the mower, and in a perfect world, it's going to pop right off, and that shaft's going to slide right out. So now that we've got that taken care of, we can go ahead and slide the mower deck out from under the mower. One sec. Woo! All right. So starting the mower and raising those arms back up would have helped me, but jacking the mower up also provided the clearance so that I could just turn it like I did. 60-inch deck on these things. Like I said, they're the granddaddy of lawn tractors. Let me grab my blanket. We're going to get under the mower and see what we need to do to get this on. One other thing I could probably do is take off these panels on the side. And be really careful with them. That would probably provide me better access to change the belt as well. See, the alternator's actually got magnets in it, so it doesn't spin freely, it grabs. You can kind of see it right there. You can see this belt just shredded on this thing. So what, we've got a crank pulley, a alternator, an alternator, if we want to be grammatically correct, fan, and let's pull off panel number 2. Hope you're all enjoying going along with me here. Okay, so there's an air intake pipe that comes in through this. Oh, we got anything on this side? No. Okay. So it's literally just a crank, shaft, a fan, and the alternator. One thing I can tell is that I'm going to have to unbolt something here on the crankshaft to get this belt around. So everything spins freely. So literally I think just the belt just quit, or the belt just snapped or shredded or something. So let me get in there, get a flashlight, let's see what we need to do in order to get this thing taken care of. And we've got, 668 hours. This was at 12/29/21. We've got currently, no joke, same hours, 668 on this thing. So this thing's been sitting for some time, it seems. Because this is September. Get under the mower, see what we need to do to that crankshaft. Alright guys, we're under the mower. Let me show you for reference. I've been looking at the hydraulic leak, and I don't know if this is something that I honestly feel like tackling. It's not over my head, but it's something that I think it's that bearing up there, or that pivot point for the bearing where the throttle comes, or the forward reverse comes in. I just don't really know. I'm tell them that, in all honesty, they just need to keep an eye on the hydraulic fluid level, because it's not leaking like detriment leaking by any means. It is leaking a little bit, and I'll clean this up a little bit for them. But I don't see, like, that's not something that I'm quite honestly interested in fixing. As long as they just keep adding fluid, then so be it. Anyways, I don't know how well the light is going to show y'all. Let me get it down here. But it looks like I just need to take off these 4 crankshaft bolts, which are, I don't know, 12, 13 millimeters. There's only 3 of them actually. And I guess what that'll do is it'll allow this to come down and me to get this belt up. I'm going to double check before I do it, but I'm pretty sure that's all that needs to happen here. And then it's just a matter of swapping out the belts, and more importantly, getting it around the fan up there. That's going to be the hardest part. Once we get it around the fan, we should be okay. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. Double check myself, and I'll get these bolts out and see what we need to do after that. Okay, so we have gotten this belt off, and I don't know if y'all can see, but part of me thinks that this wasn't part of the $1,700 service plan at John Deere. You saw the cracks and stuff in it. One concern, I did look up a video. This belt is slightly thicker than the one that came off of it. I don't know if it's because this one's just simply worn down on the sides, but I did see where the guy said that there are multiple widths for this, and it fits down in the pulleys better. But we might do a quick test fit on the alternator here, just to make sure that we can. Let me grab the tripod. Give me just a second. Because he did say it was, the guy did say it was 2 different thicknesses. And they couldn't figure out why. But this one appears like once we tighten it up, we'll be fine. At least on the alternator pulley. So what I did just to get it off, to get the old one off, is obviously I cut it. I'm going to go down there, and it is, you take those 3 bolts off of the drive shaft from the crankshaft. And so we'll go ahead and take care of that, and then we will get this new belt on. It should be fairly straightforward after that. Like I mentioned, we'll come over to this side, and I guess I've just got to get it around the fan here somehow. Like over each plastic fin on the fan. Just very carefully, because let's see, 1, 2. Might try and get it down there a little bit more too. So my guess is that we just need to come from the top here. Get it around the fan fins. Ugh, hopefully y'all can see and my head's not in the way. This is all we're doing, guys. We're just working it around the radiator fan. And in all honesty, I've been dreading this job all week just because it looks intimidating. And mostly because I've never worked on a piece of lawn equipment this large before. A big old diesel. So once you do, you learn by doing, right? It should be the last fin here. Oh, got one more. Okay. So that's good. Now, let me show you the alternator bracket and where the tensioner pulley is here. So for this alternator bracket, your tensioner is right up here. I'm imagining what you've got to do is take this loose right here, which is a 14 mil. That's a 12 mil. You take this loose right here, which is another 14 mil, and you see I got it kind of working itself back and forth here a little bit. But what we want it to do is slide, because we do need to retension this belt and be able to get it on the alternator pulley, which is going to be the last pulley that we put it on. So this may be a 12 as well. Sorry. Watch it be a 13. No, that's a 12. Okay. Come on now. There we go. There we go. So that's what you needed to do. Just take them all loose, and you got freedom of movement for your alternator. So underneath the mower now, I'm going to get my 3/8 inch impact ratchet, or electric ratchet, whatever you want to call it. Take those 3 bolts off. I'll let you see what that looks like, and then we'll put the remainder of the belt on here. Alright guys, so the guy was right. Luckily these belts are not that expensive, so I'm only out maybe $15 to $20, which on a job on a mower like this isn't that big of a deal. But I'm pretty sure this belt is too thick and it won't fit in the grooves, and it's too short. So be careful. If you get an M800347, it might be too short, because if I even get it around there, it's going to be way too stressed. So I'm going to take it off. I got to call into the John Deere dealer, see if they've got the proper part number. When I get my hands on that, I'm going to check it. I'm going to take this belt with me to make sure, and to see if the thickness is different, and I believe that that's what's going to make the difference, guys. So let me get this belt back off, sort it through the fan blades here, and I will come back with a new belt and see what we end up needing for this thing. I'm gonna do my best to show y'all. So this is obviously the old belt. It's got the missing grooves in it. And I've got it flush on the top with the suspected new belt. And you see the difference in thickness right there? You'd be like, ah, that's just wear. No, apparently 3 millimeters, from what I'm understanding, makes all the difference. So I don't know if there's like a high output alternator for one of these or what, but the only thing I can think of, I mean, you can even see that the grooves are a little bit different. But you look up John Deere 455 fan belt, and this belt is what shows up. These things are usually fairly, not generic, but the same. They only made the 455s for a few years. Same engines in them. So you would think, oh, no. Luckily enough, the local John Deere dealers got it in stock. I'm going to go pick it up and, well, we'll do this on try number 2. All right, guys, second time worked. I need to reference this guy on this YouTube video. He gave me the right number, and it fits perfectly. We're going to put the tension on this bad boy and be done with it. Here's your number, guys. M41985. So this one right here is a little too thick. It's the same length, but it's too thick on the inside. The cogged portion of it is too thick. It doesn't have enough of a V to get down into those pulleys, and that's what you need. That's the difference right there, guys. So it's the same length, but since it gets down there in the pulleys, it makes the belt shorter, if you know what I mean, so that you can fit it on the alternator. So now what I got to do is get this alternator back on. There's a couple of 12 millimeters. It's on, it's just not off. That makes no sense. I'm sorry, guys. It is on, it is attached, it is just not tensioned properly. Ooh. These early mornings working my regular job are starting to get to me. So we will snug these bolts up right here, because this is used as a pivot point. So what we need to do is pivot this alternator back to give it some decent tension. I don't know exactly how to do this. We just need to give it some ugga-duggas, right? Is that what the term is? Be careful on that coolant reservoir, though. Tighten her up. How loose is that? Probably go a smidge tighter. I don't know. I guess as long as it works, right? Seems fairly tight to me. Doesn't seem like it's ridiculous, because I just use my leverage with my arm, so it's not like it's... You don't want to be so tight it's wearing out the bearings of the pulleys either, so somebody on this is going to look at me and be like, holy cow, I am not going to let him work on my mowers. I'll tell you all this much. I don't need any more work right now. I'm doing this on the side. Get about 4 things in a week in this September. Whew. Anyways, so that's tight. What I'm going to do now, I don't even remember if I showed you all the bolts that I took off down here. But the bolts that I took off down here, basically, I can just sit y'all down and do this, can't I? So basically what we're going to do is just put this shaft back on to the crank, which requires a little bit of finagling and effort. Pardon if y'all, I can't really see the viewfinder when I got it on the floor, so if the sun's a little weird on y'all, then I apologize. So it's a little bit of just kind of working around. And then, oh, come on. I gotta get it in place. Ooh. Okay. So it's that main bolt that you gotta get around. And once you get around that, just like I think I just did, it is not a delicate operation, but a little bit of a task. There we go. So we got it. Now it's just putting these 3 bolts back in. I have an impact driver, so that makes life so much easier to do this job with. It's just a matter of basically finding the holes. Ooh. There we go. That should have locked it in. One thing I always do, first thing, especially when I'm working on something that I know is going to be a detriment if I don't get it right, is I finger tighten these bad boys. Because it's not good if you don't. So I'm going to finger tighten these. I hope y'all can see it because of the sun. If not, I apologize. But I'll get back to you. I'm just going to tighten these down with an impact driver. And we should be moving on to testing this thing out next. Alright guys, the worst part about this was simply the belt. I didn't have the right belt. So that would fit. It was a little too short, and I'm not going to stress out this alternator trying to get it on. But this belt's on, like I showed y'all. It is tight, and I'm going to crank this thing up. I don't see any reason why I don't see any pulleys that aren't free. I just think the belt was old and ended up having issues. So let's see what we got here. Look at all that dust that came out. I don't see any ill effects of the alternator. The belt seems like it's working exactly the way that it needs to, so that is a relief. Like I said, for the hydraulic fluid, I'm going to take a picture and show them what's going on with it, but I'm not going to fix it for them because you're talking about a bearing. Where is it? Like right here somewhere. Oh, there may be a provision for it actually in the no, it's up here. If I can get under the mower, I'll show it to you one more time where it is, and then I'm just going to put the deck back on. I'm going to go test mow with this thing, see if we need to do anything else with it, and I think I'll be done with this after that. Tire is got a little ATF in it. I'm going to do the same thing to this rear tire. Hopefully it'll stay up better for them. Had about 10-12 ounces in that right tire. We're going to do the same thing to the left tire. And then we should be done with this thing after that. Alright guys, she's running good. Just cut maybe 15 minutes or so. And it has not run hot. Belt's doing good. So, that is excellent. When these things idle, the whole mower shakes. Headlights still work. Hour meter's broken though. That's why it still says 668 hours on the hour meter. when the oil was changed at 668 hours. So that's got it going for it. But so who knows how many hours this thing's just got on it, because it could have, the hour meter could have stopped 300 hours ago. You don't ever know, honestly. So, but that's the situation. Obviously, this is not ideal either, but they all do it, right? This thing is quieter than the one that my dad owned. Because the one that my dad owned, you had to wear some earplugs, otherwise you'd get just blown out of proportion on your ears, like you going to a rock concert. That isn't to this. And you can see I've cut some with it. It's doing fine. All truthfulness, I put some hydraulic stop leak, Lucas, in the to top off the hydraulic system. Maybe put not a quarter of this, so probably about 16 to 20 ounces in there. And I'm just going to tell them keep an eye on it, because there ain't nothing detrimental that's happening to this hydraulic system for a 20-plus-year-old mower. It's seeping everywhere. It's just seeping everywhere, but the part that it seems like it's seeping the most from and potentially leaking from would be back where it looked like to me where the forward and reverse pedal meet the transmission. So that's a pivot point, which would kind of make sense. So I'm going to tell him I'm not going to bother doing that, because I don't want to open up a whole can of worms that doesn't necessarily need to be opened up on this mower. This thing will run for ever and ever, amen, the way that the hydraulic system is on this mower. And I'm just going to give him that advice, because I don't necessarily feel that comfortable working on something like that, because you can go wrong real quick if you're not careful. Anyways, I'm pretty much done with this 455, and we'll wrap this video up. Well, we are finished with this John Deere. Just had to put a fan belt on it. It actually was an easier task than I thought. I thought it was going to be an all-afternoon affair, but I honestly spent more time driving to get the correct belt than I did actually fixing it. So there's that. Never have worked on a big John Deere like this. The biggest ones I've had are like that LX 279 and things like that. So it was a nice treat to work on what I call the granddaddy of lawn tractors. This is about as big as they come, and honestly about as good as they come, with the big diesel and all that good stuff. Like I said, I have experience with one of these. My dad owned one, and I used it to cut my parents' yard probably for close to 10 years while I was a much younger me. So super mower. The only thing you got to look out for is the filters get clogged really easily, because they suck all that air through those grates and then through the filter and pre-filter before it gets to the radiator. And you got to clean that out after every use, otherwise you're going to have overheating issues. It seems like that's a common theme with these, is that they do like to run hot. When they get hot enough, they'll throw that temperature light and turn the blades off. One other thing I noticed is that you can't engage the blades with the parking brake on, which is kind of interesting. So I'm going to tell that to the owner as well. I'm pretty sure that they know at least that much. But they did talk about blade engagement issues. Both of those would cause it, because this thing would run, like I said, for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then it would throw the light because it's not getting any airflow from the fans and was running too hot, especially with the blades on. That's the fail-safe. When it gets too hot, it disengages the shaft for the PTO, because that takes quite a bit of load off of the engine and helps it to run a little bit cooler until you get it back to where you need it to. But either way, this thing is done. They wanted me to check the hydraulic leak. That is something I'm not going to fix. It looks like a pivot point, maybe a bearing or something along those lines, where from what I could tell, the forward and reverse pedal was going out, going into the transmission, excuse me. So that's everything on this mower that I'm going to do. I put some stop leak in there like I showed y'all just a minute ago. Hope y'all enjoyed this nice treat, a little bit different than the standard lawn tractors that I have. And hopefully I'll get some more unique stuff in here. Provides new challenges for me, and it provides new content for you all, because I feel like you just do the same stuff over and over again on a lawn tractor that's gray instead of green or something along those lines. So thank y'all again for watching. They're going to be paying a lot less than $1,700 for a service that apparently did not include the fan belt change. So I hope it wasn't supposed to, because that fan belt was old. Appreciate y'all watching, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, Ellis at ellismowers.com, or at ellismowers09 on Instagram and Facebook. I will catch y'all on the next video. See them.